Well, things felt like it's getting kind of boring. So this morning, I have big news. Vladimir Putin claims that Ukraine tried to assassinate him with a drone strike on the Kremlin. It's basically their parliament or White House, their government building. And video has emerged showing smoke rising from the building. Now, of course, in the West, they're saying this is not true. And it's heavily implied this was a false flag attack by Vladimir Putin and the Russians to justify an escalation of war in Ukraine and to ramp up public support. Don't know, don't care. Video has emerged of smoke rising from the building. Russia says this. The West says that. This just means, ladies and gentlemen, hey, maybe we're inching towards World War III. Everybody's been warning about it, and perhaps we're getting too wrapped up in this culture war nonsense about Bud Light and Antifa. And we forgot that Taiwan is surrounded by Chinese forces, and there's great concern this will lead to a full-scale World War III. And also the war in Ukraine has been escalating. So how you doing this morning? Let's take a look at the breaking news and see what's going on. And we have this from NBC News. Russia claims Ukraine tried to assassinate Putin in drone attack on the Kremlin. They say the Kremlin did not provide evidence to support the claims, but said it reserves the right to take retaliatory measures where and when it sees fit. There was no immediate reaction from Kiev. The accusation, I love how they do this. Just NBC, shut your mouths, you vapid, disgusting morons. I'm not going to play this game. Okay, let me tell you why I'm so pissed off. The accusation made without providing evidence and without immediate reaction from Kiev. Why is that sentence here? Why did you put that sentence in? Because they think you're stupid. Because they want to treat us like morons. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of what Bud Light does when they put out their stupid garbage commercials. Start treating people with dignity and respect. Now, I know not everybody is deserving of dignity and respect. Fine. But you at least have to feign it and try.
The accusation made without providing evidence.
As if the U.S. provides evidence when we make statements. You want to give people the facts? Let's skip over your garbage. The accusation was made. The accusation was the latest in a string of reported incidents inside Russia and far from the war's front lines. Okay, here's evidence. Here's a video showing smoke rising from the Kremlin. I'm assuming, I don't know, this is from Mario Nawfal, posted this on Twitter, saying, breaking, Ukraine targets Putin with drone strike on the Kremlin. Russia has accused Ukraine of attempting a drone attack on the Kremlin with the aim of killing Putin. Russian officials said Putin was not injured and that Moscow shot down 2 drones. The Kremlin said it reserves the right to retaliate, according to Russia's TASS media outlet. This is a breaking news story. More details to follow in a live thread below. Now, I don't know if this video is confirmed or what it is, but it looks like there's smoke rising from a building, which I believe is the Kremlin. I can't tell for sure. I'm not a big expert on the Kremlin, but it looks like there might be St. Peter's Cathedral right there. So it appears to be the Kremlin, whatever. NBC News, there's a reason why these media outlets are losing trust. And it's a reason why our culture is bifurcating, because you have people in this country who are not morons, and you have people in this country who are. You have people in this country who don't read the news, and you have people in this country who do. And for people like you or I, we see sentences like this, and it makes us angry. Because it's like someone walking up to you and saying, hey, you're a dumbass, right? Okay, let me lie to you. Your stupid qualifying sentences to alter the context of what's going on. We don't need them. But anyway, let's continue with the news. In a statement on the Kremlin's website, Putin's press service said that Russian military and special services had disabled 2 attacking drones that were aimed at the Kremlin. It blamed the alleged attack on Ukraine and said that no one was hurt by falling debris from the alleged drone attack in the heart of Moscow. Quote, we regard these actions as a planned terrorist act and attempt on the life of the president carried out on the eve of Victory Day, the statement said, referring to the May 9th celebration of the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The Russian side reserves the right to take retaliatory measures where and when it sees fit. There was no immediate official reaction from Kiev to the alleged thwarted assassination attempt. Russia has frequently accused Ukraine of planning attacks inside the country, often met with denials from Ukraine. But come on. Like anyone's going to believe Ukraine is not firing back at Russia. They're at war on the border. Following the news, Andriy Yermak, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff, posted 3 fire emojis on his Telegram channel without any commentary, but deleted the post shortly after. I wonder why. Russian war hawks have also weighed in. Maybe it will kick off for real now. Margarita Simonyan, head of the Russian state broadcaster RT, posted on Telegram. Simonyan is one of the most vocal pro-war figures in the country. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told state news agency RIA Novosti that Putin was not in the Kremlin at the time of the alleged attack and was working out of a presidential residence near Moscow. The Kremlin said the president's schedule was unaffected by the incident. Peskov added that plans to hold the Victory Day parade in the Red Square remain in place, according to the agency. Some military analysts, however, questioned whether the alleged incident could be seen as an assassination attempt. Quote, "This looks like Ukraine," assuming it was Ukraine, "is trying to bring the war home to Russia by hitting symbolic targets," said Michael A. Horowitz, a geopolitical and security analyst, head of the intelligence at Lebeck Consultancy, in a tweet. The alleged incident comes 14 months into Russia's invasion of Ukraine and ahead of an expected counteroffensive by Kiev's military. I 100% believe that Ukraine did this. 100%. Why not? Why wouldn't I believe it? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't anyone? There's a war going on. Now, whether or not they were trying to take out Putin, I don't know, but the attack likely came from Ukraine, because to imply that Ukraine is not engaged in counteroffensives is insane. So Russia invades Ukraine and they're like, we're just here to defend ourselves. Perhaps what they want to do is they want to bring fighting into Russia to split the force. Let me explain. Look, Ukraine is being invaded. So Ukraine brings conflict to Russia so that it forces Russia to focus security on itself and its own country, pulling its resources from Ukraine. Basic conflict strategy. So yeah, it's probably what happened. Mario Nawfal says, Russian state news has reported that Putin was not present. This we know. CNN just posted the story, rightly so. Their tone seemed skeptical. If Russia is correct and this is an attempt on Putin's life, we could see things get much uglier. Russia is calling the attack a terrorist attack. Other media outlets will soon post this story as well. He says, keen to see how they cover it. Well, we will see. 2 Ukrainian drones were flown toward the Kremlin overnight, Russia claims, so no one was injured as a result of the attack. So very well, it may be a false flag. But I don't think it's as simple to say that Russia is attacking itself to justify expansion of conflict into Ukraine, because it doesn't need it. Russia does not need to attack itself to justify an expansion of war, because Russia's been full steam ahead as it is. So maybe, my friends, World War III. Here we go. Axios reports U.S. allies could play key roles in a U.S.-China war over Taiwan. And there it is. World War III. That's what it means. Yep. A war between U.S. and China over Taiwan would be a nightmare scenario for America's allies in the Pacific, but it's becoming increasingly clear what roles they might play if one breaks out. The big picture. French President Emmanuel Macron declared last month that Europe should not get caught up in a crisis that are not ours, such as escalation over Taiwan sparked by U.S.-China rivalry. The U.S. has no formal commitment to defend Taiwan, but President Biden has repeatedly said that Washington would intervene. Remember that? Remember when Biden kept saying we would intervene and go to war to defend Taiwan? And they were like, no, don't say that. And then he just kept saying it. Because it's true. We probably will. We are on the doorstep to a World War III. And people do not understand. Let me take you back in time to the Manhattan Project. Nobody knew what they were building. There was speculation, there was rumors, and they wanted the rumors to persist. Was it a death ray? Some thought it could be a nuclear bomb, some kind of massive explosive force. But no one knew for sure. It was compartmentalized and everybody was working on something different. And then the U.S. said, we are going to drop nuclear explosives on Japan. They wanted to show the world, shock and awe, don't mess with us. And so we did. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, kaboom. And everyone saw the devastating power, and Japan immediately surrendered. Such devastating force had never been seen before. But I grew up in a world of nuclear bombs and nuclear explosions. Seeing these things, it didn't mean that much to me. because I'm a child watching on the TV the recordings of nuclear explosions, and I'm just like, that exists. It's a part of human life. But you got to imagine what it must have been like to have never seen such devastating force before. The early 1900s, bombs were not that powerful. And then all of a sudden, this bomb wipes out a whole city, and they were like, my God, we have never seen such destructive force. How terrifying it must have been. You see, for a lot of people, war was you'd land on the shores, there's siege weapons, of course, but you had to take the ground. Not anymore. With the advent of nuclear explosives, we could wipe you off the face of the earth like that. It's terrifying. And then came the advent of the intercontinental ballistic missile. Rocketry after World War II. Thanks, Werner von Braun. And now we could send the payload through space. And then we invented the multiple independently targeting re-entry vehicles. These are MIRVs. It's one ICBM that can carry up to 12 warheads. And it goes up into the stratosphere, drops the warheads, who then fall down and pepper your seaboard. Wiping out how many cities? Yeah. It's a scary thought. That's what we're seeing now. But I tell you all of this not to put the idea in your head that they could blow up a city or something like that and you'd be in it, but to help you understand that the weapons of World War III you have not seen and you will never see coming. No one knew exactly what was being built until the bombs were dropped. And then they said, my God. And who was that other guy? What was his name? Oppenheimer. I am become death, something of that nature, he said. Man, the guys who invented that massive explosive power, those bombs, they were terrified of it. Some of them regretted it for sure. And now we probably have weapons beyond your comprehension. When the weapons are unleashed, you will be horrified. I'm talking about biological weapons. Oh yeah, I'm sure that there's great concern about what may be coming in a World War III. And I've thought long and hard about conspiracies and potentialities. Biological weapons. I wonder why it is that the state so fervently demanded that everybody get vaccinated with this one particular vaccine. And I think it's because the advent of bioweapons may be upon us. Now, I don't know for sure. That's why I always tell everybody, go talk to a doctor. Don't take medical advice from me. But I'd like to entertain a simple thought. When we talk about World War III and we see these weapons on the rise, what should a nation do in the face of biological weapons? Now, there's something interesting about the Spanish flu. Why did the Spanish flu not so heavily impact China? A question asked by many individuals. Well, they say it's because actually the Spanish flu may have originated in China. As a weaker strain, it spread through the country, infecting many people, and many died. But for the most part, they developed immunity to it and they were fine. When the virus reached Europe and then the United States, it became particularly lethal. And with trench warfare, people were filthy and sickly, and they started spreading it like crazy. And when the flu reached the Chinese land again, well, they'd already had developed an immunity to it. So while they did get sick and some did die, for the most part, they were already partially immune to that strain. These lessons of history are not forgotten. And so I wonder what a war would look like with what's happening in Ukraine, with what's happening in Taiwan. What would happen if a foreign adversary, say China, unleashed a virus now among their people? They've already given them the cure or the immunity. They've already given them either a virus or a vaccine. I'm saying this hypothetically. So that should they get hit by this new virus, they will mostly survive. But collateral damage, of course, would sweep through their population. However, they'd be okay. What should the U.S. do facing such a threat? What should Western forces do facing such a threat? How do you get your entire population vaccinated for a biological weapon? Mass vaccination campaigns, right? Now, a lot of people are probably saying, I don't believe it and I doubt it. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm not saying I know for sure. I know what's true. I'm just pointing out, well, there are many people who believe that there is this great globalist conspiracy, a depopulation agenda, and that's the purpose of, say, mass vaccination programs. I'm not in that camp. I just don't know. And I think you should get medical advice from smart, intelligent medical professionals, but we'll never know. We didn't know about the Manhattan Project. I'll be damned if we know about what weapons they've got prepared now. Now, some have argued they would never unleash a biological weapon because it would damage their own population. But that's where you're wrong. They would simply prepare their population for such a strike. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, many people came out with vaccine conspiracy theories in the United States and their concern over it. Many people went out and got their 6th or 7th dose, and many others call themselves pureblood and refuse to get it absolutely. But how do you know which conspiracy theory is true, and how do you assign bias? Look, this is why I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I have no idea. All I know is there's doctors who say yes, there's doctors who say no. Most doctors seem to say get the vaccine, get the COVID shot. And I'm not saying I know anything specifically about the COVID shot. My question is simply this. Do you believe the U.S. government wants you to be healthy and safe, or do you believe they don't care about you? Do you believe that there's an international cabal that controls all nations, or do you believe that the world is split between multipolar powers? I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what not to believe. I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I think the world is split between multipolar powers. I think that there are some people who are allegiant to China and some people who are not. And I believe that war is happening. And I wonder what would happen if any one of these countries unleashed a biological weapon. When it comes to nuclear war, they came out and said, duck and cover. But we also did build fallout shelters all across the country. And in Europe, Eastern Europe, the Soviet Union built subways, their subway system deep underground. One of the most fascinating things I experienced was when I went to Kiev. These subway stations were like a mile underground, some ridiculous, maybe not a mile, but like 1,000 to 2,000 feet. You had to go down like 5 escalators to make it to the subway. They dug so deep. Why? They needed their transportation network to persist in the event of nuclear bombs. So they wanted them to be safe underground. A lot of work was done to make sure that in the event of a major catastrophe, they could survive. Do you think the U.S. would do the same thing? I do. But again, I'm not saying I know for sure what the vaccines were made for this. I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, if the U.S. feared a biological weapon from an adversary, they would have to implement a program to vaccinate or prepare as many people as possible to protect them from a biological weapon. Whether this was what it was with COVID or not, I have no idea. Some people say that China developed this as a weapon on purpose to leak it and cause damage and destruction. Maybe. And if that's the case, then wouldn't vaccination have been an attempt to save the American people? Again, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not telling you to trust people in government, because I certainly don't. My question is, do you think they want you alive or dead? Now, look, all I can say is the powers that be, the politicians, the governments, the corporations, they don't want you harmed. They need the serf labor. They need you working at McDonald's so they can have their cheeseburgers. Somebody has to do the menial labor to facilitate their wealthy existence. So I think they want you to live for the most part. But I suppose the question is which conspiracy do you believe? Because either way, there's one. These governments are preparing for World War III. Okay. And it's a conspiracy. It's a group of individuals acting in secret for some nefarious end. Or you believe the conspiracy is that all the countries are actually working in concert with each other and just want to depopulate the planet or something like that. And I think the World War III thing is more likely. I think the idea that China is working in tandem with Europe is laughable. Now, on certain things, sure, but war exists. And I think the real likelihood is World War III. And as such, biological weapons will be the new battlefield. And you will be horrified by what you see. I wouldn't be surprised if there are viruses developed that, produce zombie-like behavior. And I mean it. I mean, you look at rabies, and rabies isn't what people make it out to be. Typically, you just become rigid. You can't swallow. You're foaming at the mouth. You're agitated and angry. But you're not like a zombie that goes around biting people or anything like that. Animals, yes. Humans, humans just die. The virus gets into your nerves. And then by the time you experience symptoms, there's nothing we can do for you. And apparently there have been stories about how the vaccine didn't work. It's like an old man who got bit. They gave him the vaccine. He died anyway. There's also urban legends about how, I say urban legend, but a story of a young woman. She got bit started experiencing rabies symptoms, so they put her into an induced coma for a prolonged period of time, and she survived. The idea was that it depressed her system so that as her immune system was fighting the virus, it didn't destroy her system by, overloading it with, something about being in a coma, depressing like heart rate, blood pressure, and all that stuff allowed the body to fight it without destroying itself. I don't know for sure. Look, man, all I'm saying is we are but specks on the ass of the universe. And there are things afoot and things at play that we just don't know about. And this could be Vladimir Putin staging a false flag to justify an expansion of war, or it could be a literal attempt on his life. How do you know? You don't. When I think about the mass vaccination programs, my immediate assumption isn't the globalists are coming for us. It's like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I need evidence. There's also the potential of China's probably got biological weapons. You think nuclear weapons are what they're going to be using in this next war? And then you argue about how could they deploy a virus if it could come back and bite them in the ass? They'll immunize themselves from it. They'll implement a mass vaccination program in their country to prepare their population for this virus. So what if the U.S. is set to release a biological weapon on its enemies? They will mass vaccinate or expose their population to prevent them from getting wiped out. Then it makes you nervous, right? Uh-oh, what if I'm wrong? What if that's what's happening? Then the idea is those who didn't get it are going to be scared that if the bioweapon is released, well, you're collateral damage. The U.S. willing to sacrifice 20% of its population to win a war. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying, man, we are but specks on the ass of the universe. We are not the key players. We are not those in intelligence. We are not those in the underground bunkers. And we're certainly not the most powerful people in the world. So do you think they would tell you the truth about what's really going on? I certainly don't think so. But it doesn't mean they want you dead. It certainly does imply that they probably don't care about you as an individual. But we can only wait and see. So good luck. My advice, no matter what is true, the one thing remains constant. Getting out of cities, homeschooling your kids, being self-sufficient is the smartest thing you can do. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.